innovator, a community mover, a social entrepreneur. Share your insights, amplify your voice, scale your good efforts. Let's go further. You're a young person with a big heart. Talk to people with expertise and experience. Partner with people with resources. Inspire others. Grow with us. You can grant access. You have resources to share. Get to know the change makers. Invest strategically. Contribute. Give with confidence. We are here connecting all of you. We advocate. We enable. We amplify. Impact Malaysia.
Selalu ada yang ingin kami suarakan. Saatnya bangkit, bersuara dengan lantang. Menerangi dunia, suarakan kebenaran sebagai kekuatan. Untuk berjuang, kita adalah pemimpi yang penuh keyakinan. Kita adalah pendorong. Kita yang akan membuat perubahan. Jadi esok, seperti kemarin dan hari ini, yang penuh keyakinan. Be seen, be heard. Ayo berjuang bersama membuat perubahan nyata.
innovator, a community mover, a social entrepreneur. Share your insights. Amplify your voice. Scale your good efforts. Let's go further. You're a young person with a big heart. Talk to people with expertise and experience. Partner with people with resources. Inspire others. Grow with us. You can grant access. You have resources to share. Get to know the change makers. Invest strategically. Contribute. Give with confidence. We are here connecting all of you. We advocate. We enable. We amplify. Impact Malaysia.
Selalu ada yang ingin kami suarakan. Saatnya bangkit, bersuara dengan lantang. Menerangi dunia, suarakan kebenaran sebagai kekuatan. Untuk berjuang, kita adalah pemimpi yang penuh keyakinan. Kita adalah pendorong. Kita yang akan membuat perubahan. Jadi esok, seperti kemarin dan hari ini, yang penuh keyakinan. Be seen, be heard. Ayuh berjuang bersama membuat perubahan nyata.
Well, hello everyone. So environmental pollution is one of the key problems facing our modern world. Though there have been massive technological advancement in recent days, it also received negative effect to the environment. By doing a simple thing like planting a tree, we shall be making the world a better place, and for sure we shall always live to be proud of our achievement. Saving the environment is not just an issue anymore. It is a survival truth. Individuals, organizations, and also governments need to come together and join hands to protect what is left to our planet so that the future is not just wiped out before it's time for the curtain call. 90% of the young people think that climate change is a crisis. Youth survey exhibitions highlight levels concern regarding climate change, and there is a consensus among youth that climate change is happening. 9 in 10 Malaysian youth has experienced environment and climate related effects in the last 3 years. So here we are today in this Kata and the Body Shop webinar with the topic Climate Change is Real. Yes, it is real, guys. So hi, my name is Alia Jaffa and I'm your moderator for today's session. So together with me in this virtual studio, three panelists will talk more and raise awareness about climate change and what we can do as a human being. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first panelist. Miss No Yingrui. She's a second year undergraduate majoring in flight vehicle design and engineering at Beijing University. As she is very passionate about climate action and SDG, she is actively involving herself in various related initiatives such as Asian Young Climate Leaders Program, Climate Hackathon, and KFOP for Planet. So hi there, Yung. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Yeah, very happy
All
to join
right.
today's webinar. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we come to the next panelist, which is Bethany Oy. So Bethany, he is 18 years old and currently waiting for his university enrollment. And he loves to talk environmental awareness with the hope of making a dent in our fight against climate change. So hi Bethany, how are you?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me for today. And yeah, like I said in my intro, I really love talking about environment, and I feel like right now is where we need to act, not for the future. Like I said previously in my video that was posted by Impact, the youth have to act right now, not the future. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Bethany. Next, and last but not least, we have Jasmine Erisha. So she is a climate and environment consultant at UNICEF Malaysia, where she works on focuses on addressing climate change and environmental degradations impacts on children and advancing children's rights to a safe and clean environment. Currently, she supports the Youth Environment Living Labs called as YEL initiative, which is a joint effort by UNDP and UNICEF to reimagine youth participation in climate and environmental action. She also has a degree in M.A. in Climate and Society from Columbia Universities and bachelor studies in environmental science from Universities of Nottingham, Malaysia. Wow. So hello, Jasmine, how are you?
Hi, Alia. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited for this session.
Okay, so that's all our three panelists. So, but before we start, please visit www.katadua.com to sign on the Body Shop's Be Seen, Be Heard pledge and sign up for DCAM and find more information on Katadua, a campaign for youth political empowerment. So, everyone, please stay until the end and ask questions as many as you can, as we have a surprise giveaway from the Body Shop at the end of the webinar. So, all right. So the panelists, are you ready? Okay, cool. So, may I ask to Yingwei, for the first question, as a young person, what is actually you understand about climate change?
Yeah. So I think climate change is really a complex problem, not only from the scientific perspective and also social and economic perspective. It is really a global problem that needs more concrete action to be taken to mitigate this issue. From the younger generation perspective, we are born in this world that is um, seriously affected by climate change, and that is why we are also the key person needed to solve this issue. As stated just now by Ala in the introduction also, actually a lot of youth are already aware of the seriousness and this issue, which is a good thing. But many of them do not know how to start to take action, as they might think this is a big problem for them. Yeah, so in fact, if we start from small steps maybe refusing to use plastic or taking public transport, eating less meat, and saving energy usage, it will also contribute to the climate action. But of course, we cannot rely solely on individual actions. Instead, we need to have collective action. This is where like the use of technology comes in. Youth can contribute to environment by advocating on social medias, which a lot of people already do now, such as they can showcase their sustainable lifestyle and become advocates in their own capacity. So I also think that if more youth are interested in pursuing environmental related major or like a green career, there will be a greater impact as it will directly affect the future of climate action. However, we also need to know that the environmental sector is a very large sector that can absorb different types of talent like engineering, consultation, business, humanities, law, and more. So because we need to like achieve a real environmental sustainability, we need like also climate justice, climate governance, journalism, and more. So if there's one thing that I can say to the youth, I would say like find your role in climate action. There's always something you can do. Yeah, that's my thought on this thing.
Okay. So, like what Ring Yu says, that many young people nowadays are start to aware and getting more knowledge about climate change and also environment issues and crises. So, how about you, Bethany? Is it you want to add anything about what and share with us what is also your understanding about climate change?
Right. Thank you very much, Alia. So, what I understand about climate change is that it's a normal thing that happens on Earth. Yeah, it's been happening for millennia since the creation of Earth itself. But what makes our climate change different with what happened in the history of Earth is that we caused this climate change. You know, we will be the first species on Earth that caused climate change and causing our own extinction. So here's the thing that we need to remember, that climate change caused by us and also can be stopped by us. And I always say this to my peers that whenever we talk about climate change, which is that awareness is always the first step in everything, including climate change. We need to talk more about climate change, not to the youth, because the youth already know what climate change is. They've been taught in schools since standard one about climate change. We need to talk about it to the older generation, which they do not understand what it is. And to be very honest, if climate change do comes and gives a huge impact on us, for example, it is already happening right now. There's already a lot of impacts towards humanity, but the I guess the major destruction when it comes, it will impact the youth most. That's why we try to get the older generation to understand us and to help us out, because let's be honest, they have the biggest stakeholders in changing climate change, in stopping climate change. Yeah, and one thing that I would like to how to say, to say is that our government have to do what they preach. In our school they teach about don't use plastic bags, eat less meat, how livestock is actually one of the major contributor to climate change. Yet the funny thing is, back in my school, in our class we are taught not to use plastic bags, but in our own canteen they give us plastic bags, plastic cutlery. So it's kind of hypocritical if you ask me. So that's one thing that we need to prioritize, yeah, to take action, to be responsible, preach what you do what you preach. Yeah, yeah, I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Bethany when he says that it's not only youth generations to, like to more aware with climate change. It's also the older generations should know and be aware about the climate change. And I like the words of we are the causes of this climate change. Yes, it is, and it is real, guys. So yeah, next questions I would like to ask for Jasmine, what is actually the easiest definitions of climate change and what is currently the states of climate change in Malaysia?
Thanks, Alia, for the question. Before I go into the definition of climate change, I just want to echo a couple of points that Yingru and Bethany pointed out. And I can feel the energy through the screen, And Yingru, you mentioned that climate change is a complex problem. It definitely is. when we did survey with our youth, we asked them, what is the first thing that you think about when you think about climate change? When the words climate change pop up. So most of the time, even young people in Malaysia still think about, you have this visual of a polar bear being stranded on an ice cap. But in reality, for us Malaysians, that's a very distant image and a very distant phenomenon or thing that we can't really relate to here in our own country. So what does climate change look like here in Malaysia? So in its simplest definition, I would say, again, echoing Bethany's point that climate change is already happening and it is a normal thing, right? Like climate change is the change of weather over a long period of time. So when you think about change of seasons, change of monsoons, and the definition of weather is what we experience every day, like hot weather, cold weather, rainy weather. But the important thing to note is that climate change that we're experiencing today is largely influenced by human activities. It is human caused. So there's this term called anthropogenic effects, which means that it's human caused. So activities such as the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, so on and so forth. And I know some of you have already mentioned about the impact of climate change and also really jump into what young people can do to take action. But I just want to touch upon a bit about what are the impacts of climate change, what does it look like here in Malaysia, and how some communities feel the effects of climate change more differently than the others. So some of the impact of climate change include extreme shift in terms of climate, such as some regions which is hot are getting hotter, some regions which are cold are getting colder. The rise in temperature, the increase in precipitation or rainfall, which causes flash floods and landslides. And also from a health perspective, right? There's an increase of vector-borne diseases such as malaria because it results in increase of breeding sites for mosquitoes. And even more and beyond than just physical health, climate change does have an impact on mental health as well. Some of us, especially young people, are experiencing eco-anxiety or climate grief. And although climate change affects everyone, not everyone is impacted by climate change equally. So some populations are disproportionately impacted by climate change than the others. And these includes children, young people, women, indigenous groups, stateless migrants, persons with disabilities, and also B40 communities. Yeah, we're already seeing the impacts of climate change now, the status in Malaysia. If you remember the December and January flooding earlier this year, there was an estimate about 70,000 people being displaced and over 6 billion ringgit in losses. It's already happening, and what you see now is just a sneak peek of what is going to happen in the future. It can get a lot more worse.
Yeah. Since last year and early this year, Malaysians, we have been facing a tremendous flood. I mean, like, is the horrible floods in history since our country, right? So yeah, for sure, I do understand what are the easiest definitions that be given by Jasmine. I hope so. All the viewers today and also our followers at Facebook's Body Shops and also our Facebook's Impact Malaysia's can get more knowledge from today's webinar. So, just means again, I mentioned you that you are currently with the initiatives of Youth Environment Living Labs, YELS. So, can you tell us more what is actually YELS?
Yeah, sure. Happy to, Alia. So I am from UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, and YEL, the Youth Environment Living Labs, is actually a joint effort developed by UNDP, United Nations Development Program, together with UNICEF in Malaysia to localize the climate narrative and to reimagine youth participation in climate and environmental action in Malaysia. So there are two objectives of YEL actually. One, as I mentioned, to localize the climate narrative. What does climate change look like in Malaysia, to really emphasize on local knowledge and indigenous perspective when it comes to taking care of nature and the environment. And two is to strengthen the ecosystem of actors, including individuals taking climate and environmental actions and also organizations in the same space, and also to nurture tomorrow's environmental leaders. So there are a couple of things that we've done throughout last year and earlier this year to bring together a repository or to develop a youth hub. And we've actually compiled about 200, no, more than 200, I think it's about 250 now, entities of youth individuals that are taking climate and environmental action across Malaysia. And you can also see this through our website. I think I'll drop the link, and maybe the organizer can drop the link in the chat as well. Just or you can just Google Youth Environmental Living Labs, and you can find it online. I'm excited to share a bit about what we anticipate for Yale this coming year. Because we are also planning to provide seed funding for citizen science, especially through action learning projects to support green careers and skills building and work together closely with young people to discover or rediscover local and traditional knowledge. I'll be sharing a bit more in this session while I'm answering the questions to relate it back. But yeah, that is in essence what Yale is all about.
All right. Thank you, Jasmine, for sharing with us what is actually youth environment development. So, guys, if you want to know more about what is Yale, what is currently Yale are doing, what their program, just check it out. There is a link. This link, Yale Living Youth Environment Living Labs, Yale, and you guys can know more info there. So, yeah, we can go back to the Yingru. So, Yingru, if there is one issues on climate that you really really want to focus on, what is the issues and why?
Yeah, so like as we mentioned just now, so um it's really like have a lot of scope in this like climate issue. So for me, it would be like issue related to marine and coastal environment, such as like coastal waste issue. Why is like because I was brought up in Penang, so I witnessed the impact of climate change on the ocean and coastlines while growing up. And also in Malaysia, we have coastline of over 4,000 kilometers and is extremely vulnerable to climate change as there's large proportion of population and economic activity near the coastline. So and also over many years of development, and also a lot of land reclamation project, the landscape of Penang has changed a lot. um, from what I see, like many beaches that I enjoy going to when I was young are now like construction sites, or they already close it. Yeah, so the situation right now is like really saddening for me. I feel like the nature is like now further and further away from me. And also, if we look at the ocean from the global perspective, um, ocean is actually important for many reasons. It makes up to 70% of the Earth's surface and also hold enormous amount of life. And it also act as buffer against many global issues like overharvesting, overfishing, pollution, and change of temperature. Yeah, so um, and also moreover, just by looking at the ocean, it gives me like calm, and also when knowing that there's plenty of beautiful creatures deep down in the ocean, it just like makes me want to protect the ocean more. Yeah, so and also previously I was also part of ASEAN Young Climate Leaders Program, and my group conducted a social project in this theme, and I learned a lot about the issue and the crucialness of this issue towards the global environment. So that's why I would want to focus on this issue. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Yingroy, for sharing the issues that you really want to focus on. And I think it is an important issue that we, as the human beings, should be acknowledge these issues to find the best and the better solutions for our motherhood. So, before that, before we continue, I can see a lot of people starting to ask questions to our panelists. So, do drop your questions now, people. So, because we have a surprise giveaway from the Body Shop at the end of the webinar. And please visit Kata Dua at www.katadua.com to sign on the Body Shop's Be Seen, Be Her pledge and sign up for Katadua Camp and find more information on Katadua, a campaign for youth political empowerment. So, Bethany, how about you? So, what is your passionate issues on climate change and why? Why you choose that issues?
All right. So the one thing that how to say it, that I'm very passionate about would be livestock farming, because contrary to the popular belief, actually livestock farming is one of the biggest contributor to climate change. It's not deforestation. It's not using plastic. It's actually livestock farming, and me myself actually have been trying to reduce my meat consumption, which is very hard because let's be honest, meat is very delicious. And why I say livestock farming is one of the biggest contributor to climate change, because the amount of water it uses, one of the biggest too. If you search up, agriculture is actually one of the biggest water user in terms of farming the feed itself to feed the animals, and also the use of feed, which is grain, corn, that is used to feed the animals, and the amount of feed that is used for these animals. Instead of using it to feed these animals, why not we feed it to the people? And I've done some research. It shows that actually, if instead of feeding the livestock animals, we use all of these grains, corns, all these food, and we feed it to the people, we could feed 3.5 billion human beings, and it could probably solve world hunger. Right, and one more thing, of course, it's the amount of land used to farm these feed itself, amount of deforestation caused because of this. So that's why I think livestock farming is one issue that we need to bring up more. We need to promote more, not really to force people to be vegan, to be vegetarian, no, but reduce our meat consumption. And we can see, for example, in India, where more and more where they used to be one of the countries with the most vegetarians, more and more of them are eating meat, because more of them are are joining the middle class, where they can afford to buy meat. And that's one thing that we do not want to see. So yeah, I feel like that we need to try to reduce our meat consumption, and it's going to be very hard. It's one of the it's one of the worst issue, livestock farming, and it's going to be the hardest worst to tackle. But hopefully together we can try to reduce our meat, and maybe even one day eradicate the usage, I guess, the consumption of meat once and for all. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bethany, for sharing some very interesting information. It's also very interesting issues. Me, myself, this is the first time I'm hearing these issues, to be honest. And yeah, meat is delicious. Yeah, everyone loves meat, though, except for vegan people. So thank you so much for Bethany and Euro for sharing with us their passionate issues on climate change. So trust me, is it tough to find a solution for climate change due to being systematic? But from your observation, what are the best practice in this industry so far?
Thanks, Alia. And also thanks, Yingruy, for sharing your experiences in Penang, and Bethany for sharing your thoughts on livestock farming. I myself, Alia, am learning a lot from this session. And to answer your question, perhaps I'll do this from like a young person's perspective too, lah. Huh? So in terms of systemic change, again, to quote Yingruy at the beginning, climate change is a very complex issue. Ideally, the best practice to tackle the issue is to adopt an intersectoral approach, or also to really bring in or bring together interministerial collaboration. We need to have all sectors and all ministries to work together, because climate change is intersectional. What does that mean? It means that it cuts across many other issues. Climate change is a children's rights issue. Climate change is an indigenous rights issue. Climate justice is intergeneral justice. And to make a dent in the system, we need to start somewhere, or we just have to think outside the box. That's why one of the approaches of Yale is that we start from the youth themselves. At UNDP and UNICEF, we consider young people as experts. And from the very beginning, from the very initial stage, we engage with young people to gather their thoughts, their inputs, and listen to what they have to say and let them steer the conversation forward. That's why in Yale, if you go and visit our website again, just plugging that in, you can find very inspiring stories of young people taking action. For us, we do not want to reinvent the wheel. We know that there's a lot of initiatives going on out there. We just want to provide a platform to pull together what is already existing and have a one-stop center for young people to look for information and to gather inspiration from somewhere. And actually, Alia, you quoted, the 90% of young people in Malaysia are actually aware of the climate crisis and regard climate change as a crisis. That is actually a statistic that was quoted from the Change for Climate report, which is a report that was led by UNICEF, UNDP, and an NGO called Econite. We conducted that survey. It's an output of a National Youth Climate Change survey that we conducted back in 2020. So the idea is to gauge what is the perception of Malaysians, of young Malaysians on climate change. So we have 92% around there who are already aware of what's going on, but actually when you probe a bit further, it's quite, two ends of the spectrum. On one end, you have young people who are already out there taking action. There are the young people who, go out there, take public transportation, say no to straws. They're really doing the most in their own individual capacity. But however, there is also one portion on the other end of the spectrum, young people who are aware, but they don't know where to start. So on the website, you may also find a starter kit, which is quite self-explanatory. It's a toolkit on taking climate action and also an interactive Google Earth feature. So that you know which environmental organizations exist and you can approach them or engage them within your area. So these are some of the, entry points for young people that they can take in terms of making it or putting a foot into the system and also to take action against climate change.
All right, thank you, Jasmine, for sharing with us what is the best practice for the industries and also for the people to start taking actions and find solution for climate change. Yes, it is. I truly agree with you when you say that there is some people who know and aware about these issues, but they didn't know where to start and how to start. So, guys, please visit Yale website to know more and how you can actually contribute to the societies and also contribute to have a better solutions for the climate change. So for you guys informations, actually Bethany and also Yingro is our alumni for Kata Dua Norton. So yeah, they have been involved in this camp for 4 days and 3 nights. They have been learning about environment issues, about political issues, and also many social impact issues. So, Yingro, can you share with us what is plastics warriors and what is the change that you really want to make, and there is any support that you need from the public?
Yeah, thank you, Alia, for bringing this up. So, yeah, I joined the Katadua Decam Northern region, and at there, several participants who are also environmental enthusiasts like me. We team up to design the project, which is Plastic Warrior. Uh, we are aiming to make an impact in the local environmental scene. So we actually brought up the idea of tackling the coastal waste issue in Penang, which is like my interest, like I said previously. And after discussion and developing our idea at the camp, we have developed our project framework into 3 parts, which are volunteerism, advocacy, and also upcycling. So about volunteerism, it can contribute to the climate action by having concrete action, which is beach cleanup. And for advocacy, we plan to create awareness on the on the coastal waste issue and also SDG in general to the public by using social media platform, and also we'll also give like on-site briefing to the volunteers who join our beach cleanup activities. Besides, one of the highlight of our project is upcycling, which is making plastic waste into eco bricks. Eco bricks is plastic bottle filled up with plastic, which can be used as reusable building blocks and produce various items such as furniture, garden walls, and other structures. This maybe some of you have not learned about EcoBricks before. EcoBricks is not so well known in Malaysia. So by implementing this project, we hope to let more people in the Malaysian community to know about it and try to do EcoBricks project on their own too. We are also very glad to receive the impact fund to conduct our project. So we are currently in like planning and also researching phase of our project, and Plastic Warrior will be launching on social media and posting to recruit volunteers to join us in this journey to save our beaches and the environment. So so all the participants in this webinar can also keep an eye on it and join us if you're interested. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yingroy, for sharing with us about you guys punya project socials about called Plastics Worries. So, Bethany, I want to ask you after you hear Jasmine's and also Yingroy sharing their thoughts about climate change. So, in your opinions, can the issues of climate change be solved?
All right, thank you very much, Alia. So, to be honest, right now, I feel like with what we're doing right now, it cannot be solved. Because let's talk about education first, because everything starts with education, right? In my school, personally, I have 200 something of my classmates, of my peers, and from what I see, only a handful of students, even though all of us learn about climate change, about what can we do to reduce climate change in our geography books, science, but only a handful of us actually doing something to reduce using of plastic bags, stop using straws, carpooling, and talk about climate change. And yeah, that's one of the issues that we need to tackle too. A lot of the youth, like I said just now, a lot of the youth already know about climate change, but they are not doing they're not doing anything. They're not taking any action. That's what we need to do. We need to try to motivate them to do something. And to be frank, most of them don't even care about climate change because they are already well off. They are privileged. They have a comfortable home, and who will be the most affected to climate change is it's not people living in the cities. The most affected will be the people living in the coastal areas, where the rising sea levels, the underprivileged communities, the third world countries, they will be affected the most. But we can do something. We hold the most power to do something, and we need to help them. We need to help those that is underprivileged, undervoiced. However, yeah, that's the thing. Most of us don't really care or want to do any action, so we need to motivate that. And also, one thing that is we don't really have much enforcement towards environmental policies. For example, in Penang, I'm sorry, but I have to criticize the Penang government with this policy where we will charge 1 ringgit for every single plastic bag sold in shops. However, I've worked part time in a bakery, but we are still giving out free plastic bags. There's no enforcement. We don't see any officers coming into our shop giving us a summon because we give out plastic bags for free. No, there's no enforcement. We have a poster beside our shop, but we still give out plastics for free, even though it's written that we need to charge 1 ringgit. So there's no enforcement. That's one thing. We have multiple policies for environments, but we don't have any enforcement. And also, furthermore, people in power, they are not doing anything. People in power, the rich, the wealthy politicians, the top official government officials, CEOs, most of them, they have the resources to lend a helping hand, but they're not doing anything because they profit off climate change. They profit off expansionism. They profit off deforestation. They profit off livestock farming. They profit off ocean pollution. So why should they help? Yeah. So that's one thing that we need to fight. We need to raise our voice. We need to attack them. We need to hold them accountable for what they're doing. Because if we don't do anything, if we stay quiet, they will just earn more money. And when climate change really impacts us, the biggest punch comes, we will be affected. Our houses will be flooded. We won't have any food to eat. But then the people who cause climate change will be comfortable in their mansions with their five-star meals. So right now is a time where we need to take action. We need to hold them accountabilities. And yeah, and to be honest, from looking in our history of a humankind, we always solve our biggest issue. For example, like say economy issues or water disruption in South Africa, where if I'm not mistaken, years ago they had a thing called day zero, where in South Africa they would close all water taps. But because of the countdown of the day zero until there's no water left, people reduce their water consumption, and then until the day zero becomes gone, there's no day zero anymore because they reduce water consumption so much that there's more water for everyone. So yeah, we can solve climate change, but it's probably until the last moment where we really need to do something. Only then people will wake up. So yeah, I feel like we need to do something right now. We cannot procrastinate until the end, until when we ourselves will be affected, because currently there's already many people affected. Like I said just now, the underprivileged people living in third world countries, even our neighbor Indonesia, where coastal houses in Jakarta are getting flooded every single year because of the rising sea levels. So we need to do something right now before it's too late. But yeah, I do feel like we can solve it. But yes, of course, it'll be hard. Yeah, it will be until it's too late for us to solve. Then only we will solve, because that's what will motivate us. Because oh no, we're gonna die. Like the movie Don't Look Up. Yeah, if you guys watch it, Don't Look Up. That's a very good example where it's too late, that they don't want to solve anything. They felt ignorant. So hopefully we don't do that. Hopefully we will listen to the scientists and do something before it's too late. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Bethany. And also, yeah, I enjoy movie Don't Look Up, and I think it is one of the best movie and is the best example for the people out there, especially Malaysians, to start think that climate change is real, guys. It is real. Like just look around you guys and you will see a lot issues about climate change itself and also environment issues. So before we jump to the Q&A session, last question from me to Jasmine. In your opinion, can this actually be solved? And also, is there any environmental issues that has been solved by collective action in history? And will climate change be solved in that way too?
That is a very loaded question, Alia. But before I go into answering your question, I was actually very invested at the response by Ying Rui and also Bethany. And I'm actually very curious, maybe Bethany can reply this afterwards. You're sharing about how you're giving away plastic bags, even though you have to charge. How do you actually feel working at the bakery that you mentioned, giving it out for free when you know that it's wrong? So that's just a personal question that I had when you were sharing lah. But to address your question, Alia, you asked, can we actually stop climate change? As you rightly said, climate change is real, it's already happening. It is highly unlikely that we can reverse it. Say, for example, if we are driving a car right now, climate change is a car, there is no reverse option. We can only slow it down. Same as what we are experiencing right now. The accelerated emission of like global carbon is far too high already to be reversed. We need to decarbonize rapidly, and we need to try as much as we can to slow down the impacts of climate change. We need to take collective action. And to give you some localized examples, like in terms of collective action, when we talk about collective action, it most of the time it's in reference to grassroots. It's grassroots in nature, and actually, historically in Malaysia, there is a lot of prominent and significant NGOs that have paved its way in terms of environmental and wildlife conservation, nature protection, and also raising awareness on climate change, including Sahabat Alam Malaysia, Consumer Association Penang, WWF, Malaysian Nature Society, and Global Environment Center. That and all these, significant and prominent NGOs paved way to newer NGOs, which is more relevant to young people and climate change that you can see right now, including Malaysian Youth Delegation, Climate Action Malaysia, Collective Iklim, Project Youth. And this gives me hope. I know you mentioned Bethany and Alia about a movie, but personally, I feel that we must not succumb to doom and gloom. We need to have hope at the end of the tunnel. It keeps us going. And to quote one of the NASA scientists, his name is Peter Kalmus, he said that we need 1 billion climate activists. And there may be truth in that because there is power in numbers. We need mass mobilization. We need to build momentums from all sectors. And most of all, we need political will. We need leaders that are serious about tackling the climate crisis. And young people make a lot of noise, and I totally get that. It gets really, really frustrating knowing that we are the least responsible for the climate crisis, but we suffer the brunt of the crisis the most. Young people can make a lot of noise, but at the end of the day, we need people who listen, and we need people who would take action. Over back to you, Alia.
Yes, we need people more to take actions about these issues. So thank you so much, Jasmine, for your sharing sessions, and also Bethany and so Yingru. So we will move to the Q&A session. So perhaps the technical team can please pop up the questions so I can read what is the question that been asked by our viewers today. Okay. So the first question from Jasmine Liu. How do you promote beach cleanup? Do beach cleanup actually effective? So yeah, I would like to ask Bethany, what is your opinion about these questions?
Right. So how we can promote beach cleanup is we can do school field trips. Start from when you're kids daripada bangku sekolah, where we can have field trips to the beach to have a cleanup. And if you ask me, is beach cleanup actually effective? I feel like it's effective for the short term, but it's not for a long term. We can't go every day to the beach to do a cleanup. No, we can't do that. We need to raise awareness, and we need to educate the people that goes there to not throw rubbish into the ocean, to not throw rubbish in the beach. Because we don't have the manpower and time to go to clean up the beach every single week. No, we need education and to raise awareness that don't leave your rubbish in the beach or even throw it in the sea. So yeah, so that's what I feel. School field trips to beach cleanups, or maybe even go with your friends and family. Thank you very much. I think that's all from me.
All right, thank you, Bethany. Yes, do more advocates, and also share awareness to the people. So next, I educate my kids about climate change affect our daily life since they are young. Any activity you suggest for the kids to better understand about these issues? Jasmine, can you share your opinions about these questions?
Yeah, sure. Yu Kyung, your kids, I think you're doing a good job just by, putting it out there on prioritizing climate change and its impact on the daily life. Any activities, I maybe I can share my personal experience, not too much to impose, but just to, share some stories from my childhood and how I kind of got inspired to pursue a career, an environmental career, I guess. When I was younger, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my grandfather is a forester at FRIN, the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia. And every other weekend, he would bring my sister and I to the forest just to spend a bit of time with nature, play with the waterfall, play badminton, just to do like family stuff together outdoors. And I think having that access to a forest is actually I think I took it for granted because living in an urban city, not a lot of people get that access, especially now that we don't really have that many forest reserves to visit, or it's just not that accessible. So just spending a bit of time outdoors grew my sense of appreciation towards nature, and it really makes me appreciate the surroundings even more because I feel like, when I was there younger, like once we drove in to the compound of Frame, we would wind down the window and we can feel like the surrounding environment is cold. It's like aircon weather. But now if I were to go back and if I were to do the same thing, it doesn't feel the same anymore. You don't really get the aircon weather, and that in itself, you can feel the shift in local temperature, in the local environment. And it kind of proved that, the urban heat island effect is actually also so real within KL itself. So those are just some of the things that I noticed in comparison when I was younger until now. Lah.
All right, thank you, Jasmine, for sharing with us the tips uh, for Yikong on how she can actually educate her children more about the issues. So next, Lo Say Imt, why be concerned about a degree or two change in the average global temperature? So Yingroy, can you answer these questions?
Yeah, so actually, like people may feel like 1 or 2 degrees is like very small change that we don't need to be concerned about. But actually, like if we look at the global perspective, um, it's actually a big change that the Earth is experiencing. As we know, like from like previously, we have already like climate change that is natural, which is like not affected by human. There's already like natural climate change, and what we need to stop now is the human activities that contribute to the global temperature rising, because if actually we if it like reaches about like 2 degrees or more that in that rise in temperature, uh, it actually will uh, affect a lot on like the earth coastline and also sea level, and like the the whole situation of the global environment. So that's why we need to be concerned of this rising in temperature. And also because if we look at the long term, if we keep on have the global rising in temperature for like more and more decades, then it will be very worse in like 1 century or so. Yeah, that's why we need to take action right now.
All right, thank you, Yingro, for your answering these questions. So, coming on the next questions, Jasmine Liu. I am curious. Can animals easily adapt to climate change? Anyone want to answer these questions?
I am not a biologist, just a disclaimer. But I think this depends. So animals in nature, I mean, naturally or from an evolutionary perspective, they will adapt based on their environment. But I think the question is whether it is good or it is bad. You can see that changes in temperature causes a difference in probably a migration of species. You can see this in birds. You can see this with other animals as well, and it may kind of differ based on what their original pathway should be. So I think what is important to note is the trickling effect of adaptation or migration of animals if this were to happen in terms of species as a whole, or in terms of how they again impact other ecosystem around them. So it is all interrelated. And it is very important to also, and I guess, no, this is also one of the reasons why that we need to tackle climate change so that we don't have all this trickling impact towards biodiversity loss, towards ecological collapse, because all of it are interrelated.
All right. Thank you, Jasmine. So I think perhaps we can have the last questions from the floor. All right, Joseph. Uy. No, I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Do you think that by installing a camera and impose a fine on those that simply throw rubbish at the beach is a good idea to prevent litters besides activities to clean up at the beach? Bethany, can you answer this?
All right. Installing cameras, I don't think that's really practical because installing camera itself is high cost. Unless maybe we can find a cheaper solution, and imposing fine for those who simply throw rubbish at the beach is definitely a good idea. And what I think that's better than installing a camera is the people around the beach can maybe like we have an app. Actually, we have an app in Penang. I think the whole Malaysia has it. It's called Act Now, where we can take pictures of let's say rubbish pile, potholes on the road, and then the people can take pictures and then send it to the Act Now app, and the app will send it to the authorities. For example, in Penang, we will send it to the MPSP. Yeah, it will send it to the MPSP, and they will do something to tackle this issue. So yeah, what we can do maybe instead of installing a camera is the people around the beach can do something. Maybe they see somebody throwing rubbish, they can take a picture and then send it to the authority, and then a fine can be imposed on them. And yeah, we can maybe do this with vendors on the beach, because if the beach is dirty, they will be impacted the most, because a dirty beach means lesser customer means lesser income for the vendors. So yeah, I don't really think installing a camera would be practical unless it's low cost. Yeah, imposing fine is definitely a great idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bethany. How about you, Yingray? What is your opinion about these questions? Is practical for installing a camera and impose a fine to the people who throw the rubbish at the beach? Or yeah,
Yeah, like what Bethany say, it's the cost that cost behind installing the camera. We need to take into consideration also. I think that uh, what Bethany say, the imposing fine is uh like one good idea, but then like if we can do better in the future, it's to educate the people to not throw rubbish at the beach. Yeah, so I think that's like a more ideal way that we can do it in the future. And also like for now we can also start to educate the people, and so that they are more aware about the consequences of their action. Yeah, so like how can if they throw rubbish at the beach, and then how it will flow into the ocean and harm the sea animals. And yeah, that's my opinion.
all right. Thank you, Yingray. Thank you, Bethany, and thank you, Jasmine, for sharing a very interesting knowledge. And I think it is important things that we, as a human being, to take actions to find the best solutions for climate change. So before we end, I would like to remind to the followers and to the viewers to please visit www.katadua.com to sign on the Body Shop's Be Seen Be Heard pledge and sign up for Katadua Camp, and to find more information on Katadua, a campaign for youth political empowerment. So that's all the time that we have. So thank you guys. See you next time and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.